So anyway, I want to take an opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. And I know there's probably quite a few. And I'll start with the gentleman over here. You got microphones.
Yeah, I've got a mic. And if we can keep the questions short and to the point, we're going to close out about 8:25.
You're not going to like this one. It's going to be a long answer.
Okay.
Tell us what you can about Jade Helm.
I will. Tell us what I can about Jade Helm. How many of you know or have followed Louis Gohmert? You know who he is? Think he's a good guy? Jade Helm is doing military exercises in Texas right now, and they'll probably be doing military exercises in Arizona as well. Louis Gohmert, who is one of the people I trust probably more than anybody, he's very skeptical of everything. He's more than a trust but verify kind of guy. But Louis Gohmert has said that it is, as far as everything that he has researched and learned about it, a legitimate military exercise. What they are doing, why they picked the Texas terrain and the Arizona terrain, is because it's the most similar to the Middle East, the region they would be fighting in, the desert-type regions that they would be fighting in. And they're mostly special ops. You'd be amazed. This is one that you've seen a lot of media on, but you would be literally amazed if you knew how many times special ops forces train within the United States, because they can do so unfettered and unimpinged by, foreign spies and other things that try to involve themselves in some of their exercises. But I know Mac Thornberry, who's also from the Texas delegation and the chairman of Armed Services. I've spoken with him as well to try to find out, if there is anything about, because let's face it, why are we all concerned? We're concerned because Obama's the commander-in-chief. And everybody's concerned, and we've read reports, which are true reports, of these agencies buying mass numbers of hollow points, and it concerns us, rightly so. I think there are plenty of things within this administration to be concerned about. I think the hollow point thing, which, by the way, we were able to get stopped, was a real concern. I do. But from everything that I've learned from the people that I trust and I've talked to that have looked into this very, very deeply, this is a legitimate military exercise. That's what I know.
I have a question. My question is based upon what I believe is a constitutional principle, and that is, will you restore GlassSteagall? Because I believe that GlassSteagall restores the original tenet in our Constitution.
His question is about GlassSteagall. It's a rule within the banking industry. It's something John McCain has been pushing to get rid of GlassSteagall, which that by itself makes me a little dubious. But it is a regulation that disallows the banks from getting involved in speculative type, non-banking type issues. And I'll just totally level with you. I know that you've shared that information with me before, and it's not a cop-out, but we focus. I mean, we've got so many different issues that I focus on. I'm not on the financial services. I will talk to David Schweikert, who is on the financial services, and he's one of our Freedom Caucus members. Where is he at on this? No. I know Schweikert does not support DoddFrank at all. He wants it repealed. I think from a financial perspective, money finance in this country and monetary policy, the biggest, most important thing that we can do, biggest thing that we can do is end the Federal Reserve and get the power back to Congress. Absent that, I believe that at the very least that we should audit the Federal Reserve, and we've had votes on that. Passed it out of the House last year. Again, the Senate failed to take it up. I don't think there's a more pressing issue. When you talk about, some of the, we complain about some of these other countries manipulating their currency. What do you think quantitative easing is? I mean, are we not manipulating our currency? I'm very, very concerned about, and I think the Federal Reserve policy from a financial services perspective is the thing that probably makes me, I think it's incredibly dangerous.
Matt, I'll let you call out who you'd like to, and I'll go from there.
What?
I'll let you go ahead and pick it. We got a lot of hands up. I'll go where you want me to go.
How about right next to you there?
As of January 1st, we know the taxes went up because, can you hear me now? January 1st, the taxes went up when Obamacare passed under the Democratic Senate. In that were a lot of taxes that got doubled, and in that also, the estate tax went from 0 to 55%. Now, is there any way to undo that, or can any of these taxes be repealed? Because they will hurt the people.
Yeah, I think there is a way to undo it, but I don't think it's going to happen as long as Obama's president, because whatever we do, he's going to veto, and we're never going to get the 2/3. But I completely agree with you. The taxes on home sales, if you sell a home over a certain amount, you're going to be taxed on it. That's a fact. And as you mentioned, the death tax, and how about the medical device tax? So there's a tax on pacemakers now, and every medical device. So, and the health care tax, which is completely onerous, both to small business and to individuals. And so, yes, I believe it all needs to go, but I think that we've had opportunities to repeal, little bad parts of it, like I think we could get the votes right now to get rid of the medical device tax. And I guess my opinion is that if we don't do the whole policy, Obamacare across the board is a terrible, terrible policy, and I want to repeal the whole thing. I don't, I want it all gone. And one of my fears is that if we do just enough to make Obamacare palatable, then we won't revisit it again. So that's one of my concerns.
Hello, Matt.
Hi.
I'm glad for your service, and I helped get you elected.
Yeah.
And I wish you guys up there would start naming names. You said about this caucus and everything. We're out here, we don't know what's going on. We don't know the people we're voting for, half of them. And if you guys up there, if you can't work with somebody, let us know so that our vote will count. And who's your greatest obstacle of working?
To me, I think, there's three.
All right, name them. Let's
The three
hear 'em.
big, first obviously is President Obama. And we know that the opposite, the trio of Obama, Pelosi, and Reid.
No, I know.
But beyond that, I think that the
in the Republican
biggest,
Party.
Within the Republican Party.
Within our own party.
I think that Mitch McConnell is the biggest problem
Yes.
in the Republican Party in Washington, D.C. And
Boehner.
And Boehner is next. And I think that in the next election, if we get either way, if we get a Republican or a Democrat president, we've got to go through a massive shift. But I personally believe in the House, it can't just be Boehner. One of the problems this last time around is, the old adage, be careful what you wish for, you might get it.
Yeah.
The guy that probably could have galvanized the votes had we been able to take out Boehner in January, I'm telling you right now with a straight face, would have been worse than Boehner. The guy that I believe would have galvanized the votes. And he's part of the leadership team too.
Who is he? Who is he?
Well, all the leadership team, I think, needs to be changed.
Well, who is it? Name
You got
some
three
names.
people. You got John Boehner, you got Kevin McCarthy and you've got Steve Scalise. And I think that we need a new slate
Okay.
next time.
I got one other question. I think the major problem facing America is the illegal immigration thing and closing the border, period. I am getting so angry with these stupid idiots up there that can't do a simple thing. I mean, what's the big deal about closing the border? Everybody wants to come up here from all over the country, and then as soon as they get here, they want to change the way America, with the way we live. I like America the way it was. And if you don't like it, don't come. Get out of here. I'm telling you, I'm just fed up. I feel like going down there and building the border myself. A whole bunch of us women. But anyway, I think that's the major thing and what they're trying to do with us. And we went down to hear Trump. And by gosh, that guy, he'll do something. I don't know. I really like him. He's a negotiator. And he's going to get the job done. That we've elected you guys to do it, and you're not doing it. And I'm mad.
Already the laws that have been passed and are on the books and the assets and personnel that we have at the border are adequate to seal the border. There's one reason that it's not sealed. President Obama. And I've met with our Customs and Border Patrol agents on numerous occasions. They're as demoralized as they can be. They're decent people. They want to do their jobs. And yet their commander-in-chief doesn't let them do their jobs. And when they catch bad people with ICE, he makes them let them go. And so the answer is we can put all the great laws in the world on the books, but if you got a president and an administration that doesn't follow them, nothing gets done. And so those are some of the changes we have to make. That's a really good question. Why don't we impeach him? I was part of impeaching Bill Clinton, and I was happy to vote to impeach Bill Clinton. I voted yes on every count. Then what happened to Bill Clinton? Nothing. The Senate did not convict. That's what you guys are not realizing. You can impeach him all day long. And we really hurt Bill Clinton, didn't we? How much did he make on his speeches? And now his wife is the #1 person in contention for the presidency? I'm just telling you, if we impeach President Obama, he's still going to be president. And he's still going to make millions after he leaves office, just like Bill Clinton did. That what? If he got convicted by the Senate, you wouldn't have to pay him any retirement. Do you think there's one Democrat that would vote to convict him? I respectfully disagree. I don't believe that going down a foxhole and spending 6 months when we've got some other fights to fight to go ahead and try to impeach him just to let him off the hook on the Senate side and then let him go off and make millions in his speeches and have all the liberal press out there pumping him up because these mean old Republicans tried to impeach him. Look, there's a difference. We can go out and tilt at windmills or we can try to get results. We will never get those results. He will never leave office. Right there.
Hold on, I'm going to come over here with the mic so everyone can hear you.
Yes, I just want to know. I'm sorry. Is there something that we can do to stop him? Oh, like this? Is there anything we can do to stop him now?
I think
I
the
know we
only,
can't.
I'm going to go back to what I've said before. We cannot count on the Senate, like I said, removing him from office. We cannot count on the courts to do what we hope they'll do with holding him accountable on this law or that law. The only thing that we can count on, the only real power that we have, is the power of the purse. And I say that everything that the president proposes that we violently disagree with, we defund. Everything. And if we do that, and we stick together, that'll be the thing that
That darn word if, huh?
takes the rug out from under him. It's the only thing we got. How about there in the front? Yeah, waiting patiently.
When he took the oath of office, didn't it say something about preserving our rights and protecting us? And so, and you just a while ago said we can't sit on our laurels and not do anything. Well, I think it's time that somebody started doing something, because he's got another year and a half to completely ruin our country. Let's get him out of there.
And again, I'm going to say I think that our best course of action to stop him is to defund everything that he says that's either unconstitutional or we believe is going to be harmful to our economy. I think that happens with EPA. We defund the mechanism that deals with the mercury rule that he's talking about, which is going to impact our coal-burning fire plant industry. I believe that we go ahead and continue to defund with the IRS. I think that we have to be vigilant in using the authority that our founding fathers gave us to defeat a president that goes against the American people. Back there.
I like about half of what you say, but my question is, why did you vote for the TransPacific Partnership?
Because I didn't.
You did.
No, I didn't. I did not vote. Nobody has voted on that. That's the problem. Let me talk. Let me talk.
What you're talking about is the deal so they can make it, but you've allowed to go in. Just like
No.
Susan Snow allowed Obamacare to go in, she said, well, we should have a discussion on this, and that's how it became a law, because she could have voted against it, and she didn't. She said, well, we should have a hearing on it, and da-da-da. And it eventually came in, and they were able to maneuver and pull it off. Well, the Trans-Pacific Partnership is the same way. It's NAFTA on steroids, and if it continues and happens, we're going to lose even more jobs. It needs to stop.
What we ended up voting on, you gotta realize several different things. First of all, the president has been negotiating these deals for the last 2 years, and he's already shown that he's got his pen, he's got his phone, he's going to do what he's going to do. We're faced with a decision on whether or not we're going to put our imprint. If you want a deal, then these are the things that you have to live by. So you keep shaking your head. Do you want an answer or not? Okay. So what we voted on was to put 150 parameters on the president if he wants to ultimately get a vote by Congress. I have not voted for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I don't even know what's in the most current iteration of that deal. I don't know that I'm going to vote for it. I may very well vote against it. But what I voted for was bringing it out of the shadows, which is where it's been for the last couple of years, and requiring that it's on the internet for 60 days so that you can read everything in it and not just speculate. But I've heard enough crap out there about what's in this law, or what's in this deal, what's in the proposal. I've heard from people out there that in that proposal, it's a backdoor for illegal immigration. It's a backdoor for gun control. It's a backdoor for the cap and trade. What has Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and Elizabeth Warren been working their guts out on for the last several years? Every one of those things. Do you not think in your wildest dreams that if those guys could find a back door to get those things, they'd be all over it? How about the fact that George Soros has his fingerprints all over the websites that have been out there giving you the information that you've gotten? I got an email today that said everybody that voted for this TPA was bought and paid for. You know where that report came from? That report came from the people that took New York and Washington by storm. What's it called? Occupy America, funded by George Soros. That's where, follow the tracks. Go back to where the report came from. It came from Occupy America. And they have been out there trying to dupe, I think, the American people. They're making, and in their same report, they came out and said, oh, but the heroes, the ones that wouldn't take the money were Nancy Pelosi, or took the money and then voted against it, were Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and Steny Hoyer. Oh, all these bastions of liberty and freedom. Like leopard's finally changed his spots. Look, if you guys believe the crap that George Soros is throwing out there, I got some land I want to sell you in Arizona too. That is not true. Nobody has voted on the TPP. We voted to bring it out of the shadows. And I may very well not vote for that bill. If there are bad things in there, I'm not going to vote for it. But I do not believe that bringing this president out of the shadows and forcing him to put everything out there publicly was a bad vote. And I'll defend it till I die.
Thank you, Congressman Salmon. My question is the same question that I asked Donald Trump in Vegas at the Freedom Fest. We are a country that was based on Judeo-Christian principles. Why is our country and churches and synagogues and temples allowing Christians and minorities to be persecuted in the Middle East, and individually they're not doing anything to stop it, other than Catholic Charities funding programs for Muslims to come in here and resettle? What can you do about it?
It's amazing that what's going on, and this kind of love affair that the media in our country and Hollywood seem to have with some of these radical Muslim groups. That they seem to think that all Muslims are good people. The fact is, not all Christians are good people, not all Jews are good people, not all Muslims are good people. But where is the denouncement of these radical Islamists that are out there bent on abusing women, that are bent on abusing and killing Christians, and doing everything that they can to trample the things that we say we care about? Now, if any other entity was out there doing the kind of atrocities to women, as an example, that these people are doing, they'd be crucified in the press. But yet somehow these guys get a pass. I think that, look, people of faith have got to band together and stand. And I'm saying the same thing I know some folks in the Muslim community, like Judy Jasser. How many of you have heard of him? He's one of the biggest voices out there, prominent Muslim, that's out there condemning. And any Muslim, I think, that wants to be respected and admired has to call things the way they are. And when radical Islamist groups are out there cutting people's heads off and persecuting and murdering Christians, you have to call it what it is. And so I think people of faith everywhere have to stand up and denounce that there is no religion that advocates harming your neighbor. What's what?
What's your opinion of the pain Trump right now?
I've met with Trump on numerous occasions. Actually, I had a good meeting with him about 8 months ago in his office. I found him to be a genuinely decent guy. That I found him to be actually quite humble in opposition to what I think a lot of people are out there saying about him right now. I think what he may not be the best wordsmith in the world, but what he's saying is exactly what happened in San Francisco, what happened to Grant, that there are bad actors. For so long, the Obama administration has been perpetuating this notion that the only people that are coming across the borders are benevolent, wonderful, decent human beings that just want to take care of their families. And that's just not true. There are bad actors coming across that are smuggling drugs. There are coyotes that are smuggling people and taking children and then demanding more money after their parents have already paid $5,000 and then cutting an ear or a finger off and mailing it to them and demanding several thousand more dollars. There are some really bad actors coming across, not to mention the fact that one of the things that keeps me awake at night is what about the possibility of terrorists coming across? I think that what we've got to do is focus on the problem, and the problem is that our border is way too porous. The The problem is that the Obama administration has enacted on wide-scale catch-and-release policies, and we've got to fix those problems. And I think that that is more than anything what Trump has been trying to say.
%. 37% of our welfare is being taken by illegal aliens in this country. 49% of the felons in Maricopa County Jail today are illegal aliens. Look at what it's costing us, not only in lives, hurt, but the amount of money that it costs for us to budget something like that.
Look, we all know, every one of us have probably known personally somebody that's come across the border that hasn't come across legally. And many of those people that we've gotten to know, they're not bad people. They're not evil. They're decent people. They're hardworking people. But you can't paint with a broad brush like the Obama administration has tried to do. You've got to, and you've also got to be a nation of order. We've got to have respect for our laws. And so while the people that come across, many of them are decent, hardworking people, they still violated the law. They still do not respect our laws. And is it really fair at the end of the day to somebody that waits in country and does it right through their embassy? It's not fair. And ask them about it. Ask the people that are trying to do it right, or the people that have recently immigrated to the United States legally. They'll say the same thing. Let's get back on the message that I think resonates with just about every American. It's a sense of fairness. I mean, if you're in a movie line and you've been waiting there for a great movie and you've been waiting for 2 hours for your seats and then somebody jams in front of you, how does everybody feel? Republican and Democrat in the line. Everybody's senses are offended. It's not fair. It's not right. And I think those are the kind of terms that we have to end up talking about. That it's not, we are a nation of laws. We don't hate people, but we love our laws and we want them enforced.
Congressman Salmon, can we come over this way?
Representative Salmon, I've got an idea, bipartisan bill idea. With the wake of the soldiers that were killed in Chattanooga, I was proposing a bill that would be called the Chattanooga 4, Arm Our Soldiers, and then one more died. So now the bill I'd like to see initiated by you is the Chattanooga 5, Arm Our Soldiers. Maybe it needs to be on American soil. Despicable that we can't, that our soldiers are not armed. And I had a son in the Air Force. I got a daughter-in-law, security forces at Luke Air Force Base. And I'll tell you what, I just can't even imagine another Fort Hood, and then it happened again. So I think everyone would come across and they would join hands. It just makes me so sick that the brave heroes were there and they couldn't fight back. And I'll tell you what, everything's changed and we've got to protect them because they're volunteering to go out and fight for us. And the least we can do is arm them. Even I can be armed, and I am armed. But my God, to not let our soldiers be armed, I just can't even imagine it. But this is an issue that all of us can agree on. And that's what I'm proposing. And it's funny because I sent this to everybody, and then people said, well, send us the bill. And I go, oh, well, I don't have it figured out, but I figured that's something that maybe you could initiate or...
Well, I got a big smile on my face because we're already working on the bill.
Woo! Good. Thank you.
I already co-authored a letter to the top brass in the military saying that our military should be armed, and I'm already working with another congressman on dropping that very bill so that our military people will never have to worry about crazy folks or terrorists coming in to kill them and them being totally unarmed. So we're already working on the bill, and so I guess great minds think alike. Thank you very much. Right there.
Thank you, Senator Salmon, or Representative, excuse me. I I have two questions. One is there any thought of doing anything about tort reform, which a lot of us who are medical people have thought for a long time would go a long way to decrease medical costs? That really has to be addressed. The second thing is there anything that any of you can do, either with the purse or something, to stop the flow of the tens of thousands of Muslims coming into this country, but not allowing the persecuted Christians from the Middle East to come? That is a concern of many, many of our friends and neighbors.
First of all, on the Tort Reform question, it hasn't, there have been so many fires to put out. I haven't heard anybody talking about it for a while. I support it very much, and I believe that this nation, if we're going to get back on solid footing with our medical costs that are way out of control, and all the doctors that are leaving the profession because their malpractice insurance is, through the roof with all these nuisance suits and everything, I'm glad you reminded me of it, because it is something that we need to go back and get done. So I'm glad you brought it up. You're the first person in a long time that's brought it up, but when I campaigned, it's something that was on my agenda, and I'm glad you reminded me, because it is something I very much support. So I'll go back and talk to staff about seeing if we can get on something that's already out there or starting our own bill, because you're exactly right. On the whole immigration policy, we should be about allowing people to come to this country who love this country, love what it stands for, and want to contribute and not be on welfare. That's how I feel about our immigration policy.
Congressman Salmon, if we can have one more question and then just closing comments by
Looks
you.
like you got the guy right in the back there, the guy that sang so well at the beginning. And he's got his own microphone. Not under the current situation. Right. He'll play the victim. He'll play the victim as he does on everything else. He'll still be in office. He'll make millions.
So let's be real here.
Yeah.
It is a violation of the Second Amendment. It is a violation. They use the necessary property clause to create any law they want. It says the foregoing in that section 8. Section 18 says only the foregoing express powers should be addressed.
Oh, I know that. I know that. And while I think that the whole thing about the impeachment of Obama would only embolden the guy, I believe that there is an impeachment or two that we could pull off. And I think one of them, and we should, and I'm actually working with Ron DeSantis to drafting articles of impeachment on the head of the IRS. I think that we can pull that off. I think we can. That having been said, all great comments on the idea that you talked about the immigration and the guest worker and other things. I think a lot of these things were about to happen until Obama did what he did in November. Nobody trusts the guy now. In fact, a lot of people are afraid that whatever we do, he's going to abuse it. And so a lot of folks who believe that we do have some fixes to do, we're going to have to wait for another president, one that we actually know will uphold his oath of office to get it done. What? Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. Well, listen, I'm gonna close my comments by saying just a couple things really quick. You know, back there, the issues come so fast and so furious. Sometimes you feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose. I read a lot of this stuff when I'm coming back on the plane because it's the only time that I actually get to sit down and, really ponder. It's where I read the Iran deal. It's where I read the TPA. That actually took 2 airplane flights to read. And I know that here in this room, if we talked about 1,000 issues, we'd probably agree on about 980. All of us would. Probably agree on the vast amount of them. Some of them get a little bit nuanced. Sometimes I see things you don't see. Maybe you see something I don't see. And we end up having a difference of opinion. What I want you to know, I want you to know this from the bottom of my heart. This job, to me, is never worth compromising integrity, ever. Ever, ever, ever. Not at all. I got to come home and look my kids and my grandkids in the face and my wife, and I look at myself in the mirror. And I promise you, you disagree with me on something, we can disagree on the merits, and that's good. That's how healthy relationships are. But I want you to understand my motives. I'm always going to do what I believe is right. I'll study it 6 ways from Sunday, and I'll do what I believe is right. Am I going to be right all the time? No. I know that. I'm not God, and I'm not even close to that. But I promise you this, I will study it hard. I will always make it past this test first, and I will do what I believe is in the best interest of our country every time. I promise you that. And thank you.
Thank you. I want to ask you one more.